Hello. I feel like I need to make this video while the thoughts are still fresh in my mind. So I'm here in one of my favorite places along the beach of Lake Superior. So for those of you that know some of my story, I was born a Latter-day Saint. Ended up being groomed by a member of my LDS bishopric, which is like a pastor. Instead of being supported by the church when I whistle blew, I was scapegoated. They called it an affair. They called it a sin. Instead of it being a predation, they thought that the two of us were involved and I was trying to escape him. But anyway, I ended up marrying him. Partly because the church thought it was the best way to make lemons out of lemonade, I guess, and continued to blame me for botching it up. What should have happened is that my abuser should have been reported to the state police in Michigan, and I should have been taken out of the home the day that I told Chuck Raymond, my stake president, what was going on. Bishop Erickson should never have been given the case because he was prejudiced against me, completely misinterpreted it. My abuser, Wes Goodwin, was known to be already cheating on his wife with a prior case. And it was a catastrophe. But I ended up marrying him. And during my second pregnancy, both children were donor conceived because my abuser was sterile. And part of his proving to the church that God had forgiven him in our marriage was somehow heaven blessed was having children, and partly because he had not allowed his first wife to have children by stranger donor. It was his way of getting revenge on her for being mad at him for cheating on him, was having children with me. And I got very suicidal, extremely suicidal during that pregnancy, and it didn't matter to me that I was carrying a baby. It didn't matter that it was a son. In fact, that was part of the reason that I wanted to die, was I didn't want that boy to grow up to be anything like my abuser. Didn't want him to have Wes as an example. Didn't want to keep acting like I was happy in the marriage. Didn't want to keep being the good Mormon wife supporting my husband. And so I went to my bishop, which was Bishop Thomas. And he kept the secret from my husband, and I kept the secret from my husband that I was this suicidal. We turned to the scriptures. In his office, he had the pictures of the 12 apostles in the first presidency, 15 men framed in 8x10 photos that circled the room. And I was taught that these were the fount of knowledge. This was the mouthpiece of God. And if I always looked to the prophets and apostles, that was my iron rod. That was my lodestar. That was my pitchfork. And if there was something wrong in my life, find a talk by one of these guys and attune my life to their teachings, because they spoke for God. And so I think I was in the church much longer than I should have been because of the teachings of this bishop. I felt like he loved me. But at this point, at the age of 51, and, over 25 years out of all that, it was naivete on the part of Bishop Thomas. He was not pastorally trained. He was not a trained mental health professional. And when I was suicidal that bad, I should have been referred to a non-LDS mental health counselor who would have seen the situation for what it was. Bishop Thomas was trying to save the marriage to the point of wanting me to go to the temple eventually with Wes. I did not want that. I never wanted to marry him. Why would I want to be sealed to him? But I was so bad. I think I got blessings like every Sunday, sometimes on Wednesdays too. I got blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing, just to keep going, put one foot in front of the other and not die, not kill myself. Well, today I just found out that, according to the people I've heard this from, that this dear bishop, the only one who ever apologized to me, the only one who ever came back and said, gosh, after you left and his next wife started telling us the things you told us, I realized you weren't exaggerating. I realized you might have been telling the truth, and I'm sorry. He's the only one. President Raymond never did that. Erickson never did that. Well, I found out this bishop had a son who had gone through all the steps, been the good boy, got baptized, served a mission, married in the temple. And then he had what I call a trust crisis, a truth crisis. And I read his obituary. He passed away last fall. And I think that my dear bishop wrote this obituary because, again, it was that same concept of if there's something wrong in your life, it's a you problem. It's never the fault of the church. It's never the fault of the gospel. Those are the gold standards. Because something in the one of the sentences said that it was the problem of the boy. It was not a problem with the church. It was not a problem with the gospel. It was not a problem with his family. It was a problem with him. And that, my friends, is victim blaming. It is victim blaming. I am so sad. I had Bishop Thomas there in my life to give me those blessings and to keep saying, put one foot forward in front of each other. But I had an attitude that I still believed the church was true, that I still believed the men leading this wicked corporation posing as a church, that they had my best interest at heart, that they were not evil. And it's just killing me right now that this dear man and his family have lost this boy, another life taken by this Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, this corporation posing as representatives of Jesus of Nazareth, posing as the mouthpiece of deity. Remember, my Mormon family and friends, that when you go through the temple, that fourth covenant in the endowment is not to God the Father, is not to Jesus Christ, and is not to any member of deity. You pledge your lives and your everything. Anything with which the Lord has blessed you, or with which he may bless you, to a earthly organization who covenants nothing to you in return. Nothing. This was a preventable death. This was a preventable death. I'm so sorry it had to happen to my friend. My dear mistaken friend. I have one more thing to say. Bishop Thomas was also my institute teacher, and he was a seminary teacher. And I guess, President Nelson would probably call him one of those really good scriptorian Mormons that we were all encouraged to be absolutely not a lazy learner. And a story that was frequently told to us, both in seminary and in our YW and YM classes and in firesides, was the story of return with honor. It is better for you to come home in a coffin than to come home without your virtue. Did you guys get what you wanted? Did you get what you wanted? I mean, wouldn't it be better to have your boy alive and maybe not a member of the church than to have it be the way it is? What a waste.